Peace. This is Star with the Star Blooms. Hey y'all. I was literally told get up and share the message, okay? Take a break, share the message. So I channeled two messages, and one of them was the takers who don't care. This message was very peculiar because I had basically been sitting with my big mama of my family, the matriarch of my family. And I was basically processing her transition and how she moved when she departed and the certain rates of her that basically showed up within me and how the alignments have basically continued. She was also a part of like my activation. So she had been quiet. So I was like, okay, what's going on? I made some adjustments, continuing to cleanse and like raise my frequencies. And the more I basically do that innately, there's this line that's being revealed in the lineage that I could basically perceive the traces of through pattern recognition, system recognition, constantly competing and integrating more of the pattern by not necessarily being aware that it is a pattern that I was basically being called to release. So there was a point at the end of, her journey here physically where our communication changed. And the more I basically tried to reach out to her, the more it became a thing where I needed to gain access to her through other people. So people would basically start to pick up her phone. She would be there, but the conversations would be monitored. So on and so forth. Upon my discovery through memory, through accessing her energy, recognizing that all is present and having the ability to sit within that space and within that rate, I gained so much information. And one of the things I recognize is being empathic. A lot of the times we expect people to have remorse for the decisions and the behavior that they've taken, 505, that they've taken against others, right? You may be sitting in a rate waiting for some form of apology or acknowledgement of wrongdoing, retribution for behavior, people recognizing that karma is a real thing, so on and so forth. However, a lot of the times the people that you place this expectancy on, you sit in this rate of anticipation with, a lot of the times you just be using energy, commemorating yourself in thought processes that a lot of the times you're just allowing to live within you. As I'm speaking about this, y'all, I could feel like tightness in my heart space. And that was the part of the conversation that I was basically sitting with that I wasn't wanting to share, but I recognized how vital it was. Healing my inner child, there has been this rate of coming to a level of maturity where I recognize the presence of spirit, the presence of the Most High, and how it's been continuous throughout my journey, but how at rates and times I wasn't aware of it, and how I wanted to have this hands-on experience, this coupling experience, this pairing experience. And at so many different rates and opportunities, I basically had the provisions and the permission to basically do it and go at it to what I perceived at a lot of rates alone, because I didn't have what I felt like was physical representation, if that makes sense. With her, my grandmother, transitioning, and me being so close to her, and me recognizing how much she had even anticipated for me, even in her passing, and not being able to live in that rate of truth due to jealousy and due to the actions of certain to her children, um yeah, grandchildren, so on and so forth. There's still been this rate of, you could do it, go at it alone. Communication that she has given me, because of how she speaks, she could say things, but she's really, really curt with it. She'll get in and get out, 555. I know that I'm not only just feeling my energy, I'm feeling rates of resentment from people who believe that they got away with something that they were never going to get away with, but yet they were in the action of whatever they were going to be in the action of. And there's so many rates of conversation that's happening, so many parts of the channel that I want to share, but I only have such an allotment of time, so I want to basically try to make sure it makes the most sense. Being at a rate to where you're receiving your maturity, it isn't necessarily just about doing it alone, but it's about trusting yourself and having the will within to push forward and to move throughout a circumstance, versus waiting for the opportunity and the permission to be privileged at a certain rate, right? Sometimes you are conditioned in belief, and this belief may not necessarily be true, but you've enacted this belief based off of things that have been passed down in patterns a lot of the times. That's why pattern recognition is so vital. And when you're recognizing that you're basically being called to sever ties with certain patterns, to reestablish certain things for yourself, you have the opportunity to basically be at this unique space that some people that you've been connected to basically may have not necessarily moved forward in. And there's a lot of embedded insecurities that a lot of the times aren't yours, but they be within the blood, right? And the more you activate, the more your blood charges, and the more you alter and change and shift and trajectory. A lot of things lay dormant until they're acknowledged, until they're accessed. And you changing alters the frequency and the chemistry of others, even if they're not in the capacity to be aware that that's what's occurring. I have been to, because I'm going to share a short story to make all of this come together. Me and my daughter went to, it's like this basically observation place where you could basically sit in nature and observe nature and all of these different things. Probably like an hour or so away from where we live at right now. And what we seen was this family of ducks. And what was so interesting about the duck is that the mother duck would basically, she would move away, but it seemed like these feats that she were taking were so extreme. And the little bitty ducks basically were left to get to the same rate of what she had moved to. Good God. To get to the same rate of what she had moved to, right? And this is what I was talking about raising the frequency to get back to her, because I felt like she was too quiet for me, my grandmother. And she would move to a certain rate, and then you would see like the little bitty duckies basically like all lining up. And this particular duck, she only had three. Okay. So they all basically tried to enact exactly what she was doing. Now this water was pretty swift. However, they continued to move and move and move, and they didn't stop until they got where she got at. The thing that I found so peculiar was that the mother never went back down where she had moved from to get them. She sat there and she waited for them to arrive. A lot of the times you be waiting to be taken care of, right? Because you believe that you have caretakers in a circumstance, and sometimes you just have takers who don't care. When you have people who have been placed in your life to be destiny helpers, sometimes they won't hold your hand in what it is that you are supposed to be enacting in. Sometimes they'll just move to a rate and they'll give you the path and they'll light it up for you to show you where you'll be landing at. And it's for you to take the steps to get there.